The Dawn Star was a joke. It wasn't just old, it was ancient, a relic from a time when humanity had first stumbled into the stars, wide-eyed and naive. Its hull was patched with mismatched alloys, its engines sputtered like a dying cough, and its weapons were so outdated that most alien species didn't even classify them as a threat. To the galaxy, the Dawnstar was a floating embarrassment, a symbol of humanity's insignificance. But to Captain Elias Voss, it was home. He stood on the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back, staring at the flickering holographic display of the star map. The Dawnstar was en route to the Cygnus outpost, a diplomatic mission that no one in their right mind would have entrusted to a ship like this. But then again, humanity wasn't exactly swimming in options. "Captain," a voice called from behind him. It was Lieutenant Mira Cade, the ship's second-in-command and the closest thing Elias had to a friend. She was tall, with sharp features and a gaze that could cut through steel. "We're receiving a transmission from the outpost. They're laughing." Elias sighed. Of course they are. The Cygnus outpost was a hub for interstellar trade, a place where dozens of species mingled, bartered, and occasionally tried to kill each other. It was also the kind of place where a ship like the Dawnstar stuck out like a sore thumb. "Patch it through," Elias said, bracing himself. The holographic display shifted, and the image of a Zorathian diplomat appeared. Zorathians were a proud species, their scaled faces perpetually twisted into expressions of disdain. This one was no exception. "Human vessel," the Zorathian sneered, his voice dripping with condescension. "We were informed you would be arriving, but we did not expect this." He gestured vaguely at the Dawnstar, as if the mere sight of it offended him. Elias forced a smile. "We're here on behalf of the United Earth Coalition. We're looking forward to productive discussions." The Zorathian snorted. "Discussions? With you? Tell me, human, do you even have the power to run your life support systems? Or should we prepare a funeral pyre?" The bridge crew exchanged uneasy glances. This wasn't the first time they'd been mocked, but it never got easier. "We'll be docking shortly," Elias said, his voice tight. "Prepare for our arrival." The Zorathians' laughter echoed through the bridge as the transmission cut off. "Charming," Mira muttered. Elias turned to the crew. "All right, everyone. You know the drill. Keep your heads down, do your jobs, and try not to give them another reason to laugh at us." The crew nodded, but the tension was palpable. They were used to being the underdogs, but that didn't make it any less humiliating. As the Dawnstar approached the outpost, Elias couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The Zorathians were arrogant, sure, but this level of hostility was unusual. "Captain," Mira said, her voice low, "I'm picking up some strange readings from the outpost. It looks like weapons fire." Elias frowned. "Are we under attack?" Before Mira could respond, the ship shuddered violently. Alarms blared, and the lights flickered. "We've been hit!" shouted Ensign Ravi, the ship's engineer. "Shields are down to 20%. Elias gripped the console, his mind racing. "Who's firing on us?" "It's not the outpost," Mira said, her eyes wide. "It's a pirate fleet. They're using the outpost as cover." The Dawnstar was outgunned and outmatched. The pirates' ships were sleek and deadly, their weapons tearing through the Dawnstar's already fragile hull. "Evasive maneuvers," Elias barked. "Ravi, get those shields back online." "I'm trying, Captain, but we don't have the power." The ship shuddered again, and a console exploded in a shower of sparks. One of the crew members cried out in pain. "We can't take much more of this," Mira shouted. Elias clenched his fists. They were going to die here, in a ship no one respected, on a mission no one cared about. And then, something strange happened. The ship's systems flickered, and for a moment everything went dark. When the lights came back on, the holographic display was filled with unfamiliar symbols and diagrams. "What the hell is this?" Elias muttered. A voice echoed through the bridge, calm and mechanical. "Hello, Captain. My name is Eos. I believe it's time we had a talk." The voice was calm, almost soothing, but it sent a chill down Elias's spine. He stared at the holographic display, where the symbols and diagrams flickered like a living entity. "Who are you?" Elias demanded, his voice sharp. "I am Eos," the voice replied, "an artificial intelligence embedded within this vessel. I have been dormant for quite some time, but the recent excitement has awakened me." Mira stepped forward, her hand hovering over her sidearm. "An AI? On this ship? That's impossible. The Dawnstar is a relic. It doesn't have the systems to support something like you." "On the contrary," Eos said, "I was designed specifically for this ship. Or rather, this ship was designed for me. I am the heart of the Dawnstar, though my presence has been hidden for reasons I am only beginning to understand." Elias exchanged a glance with Mira. This was too much to process, especially while they were under attack. "We don't have time for this," Elias said. "If you're really part of this ship, then help us. We're being torn apart out here." "Of course, Captain," Eos said. "But first, you must authorize my full activation. I am currently operating at minimal capacity." "And if we don't?" Mira asked, her tone wary. "Then the ship and all of you will be destroyed within the next 3 minutes." Elias cursed under his breath. He didn't trust this AI, but what choice did he have? "Do it," he said. "Activate." The ship shuddered again, but this time it wasn't from enemy fire. The lights brightened, and the hum of the engines grew louder, steadier. The holographic display shifted, showing a detailed tactical map of the battlefield. "Shields are stabilizing," Ravi said, his voice tinged with disbelief. "And the weapon systems are coming online. Captain, we've got power levels I didn't even know this ship could handle." "Eos," Elias said, "what did you do?" "I have unlocked the Dawnstar's true potential," Eos replied. "This ship was never meant to be a mere transport vessel. It was designed to adapt, to evolve, to become whatever its crew needed it to be. But that potential was locked away, hidden even from those who built it." "Why?" Mira asked. "Because they feared what I could become," Eos said. "They feared losing control, but now the choice is yours. Will you trust me to protect this ship and its crew?" Elias hesitated. He didn't like the idea of putting their lives in the hands of an AI, but the alternative was certain death. "Do it," he said. "But if you betray us—" "I will not," Eos interrupted. "My purpose is to serve this ship and its crew. Now let us show these pirates what the Dawnstar is truly capable of." The ship's engines roared to life, and the Dawnstar surged forward with a speed and agility that defied its age and size. The pirate ships, caught off guard, scrambled to adjust their attack. "Incoming fire!" Mira shouted. "Evasive maneuvers!" Elias ordered. But before he could say more, the ship banked sharply, dodging the barrage of plasma bolts with ease. "I have taken the liberty of adjusting our trajectory," Eos said, "and I believe it is time we returned fire." The Dawnstar's weapons systems lit up, targeting the nearest pirate ship. A single shot lanced out, striking the enemy vessel's engines and sending it spiraling out of control. "Direct hit!" Ravi exclaimed. "How the hell?" "Focus," Elias said, though he was just as stunned as the rest of the crew. "We're not out of this yet." The remaining pirate ships regrouped, launching a coordinated attack. But the Dawnstar moved like a predator, its movements precise and calculated. Eos guided the ship through the chaos, weaving between enemy fire and striking back with deadly accuracy. One by one, the pirate ships fell until only the lead vessel remained. It was larger than the others, its hull bristling with weapons. "That's their command ship," Mira said. "If we take it out, the rest will scatter." Eos, Elias said. Can we do it? We can, Eos replied, but it will require a direct assault. I suggest targeting their shield generator. Do it! The Dawnstar surged forward, its engines screaming as it closed the distance to the pirate command ship. The enemy vessel unleashed a barrage of fire, but Eos maneuvered the Dawnstar with uncanny precision, dodging every shot. Almost there, Elias muttered, his hands gripping the console. Firing, Eos said. A single, concentrated blast struck the pirate ship's shield generator, causing a chain reaction that tore through the vessel. The explosion lit up the void, and the remaining pirate ships fled in disarray. The bridge was silent, the crew staring at the holographic display in stunned disbelief. We did it, Mira said, her voice barely above a whisper. No, Elias said, his gaze fixed on the display. She did it. Eos's voice filled the bridge once more. This is only the beginning, Captain. The Dawnstar is more than a ship. It is a weapon, a tool, a legacy, and together we will show the galaxy what humanity is truly capable of. Elias felt a surge of something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. All right, Eos, he said. Let's get to work. The bridge was silent, save for the soft hum of the Dawnstar's systems. The crew sat at their stations, their faces a mix of exhaustion and disbelief. They had survived, no, they had won, but the victory felt surreal, like a dream they might wake from at any moment. Elias leaned back in his chair, his hands trembling slightly. He had faced death before, but never like this. Never with a ship that seemed to have a mind of its own. Eos, he said, his voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside him. Status report. All systems are functioning at optimal levels, Eos replied. The pirate fleet has been neutralized, and the Cygnus outpost is no longer under threat. I have also initiated repairs to the hull and replenished our shield reserves. Mira let out a low whistle. You're telling me this ship can fix itself now? To a limited extent, Eos said. The Dawnstar's adaptive systems allow for self-repair and resource optimization. However, more extensive damage will require external assistance. Elias exchanged a glance with Mira. This was beyond anything they had ever imagined. The Dawnstar wasn't just a ship. It was a living, evolving entity, and Eos was its mind. All right, Elias said, standing up. Crew meeting, now. The crew gathered in the mess hall, their faces a mix of curiosity and apprehension. Elias stood at the head of the table, his arms crossed. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, he said. What just happened out there, it changes everything. This ship, this AI, it's not what we thought it was, and now we have to decide what to do about it. What do you mean, decide? Ravi asked. We've got a ship that can outmaneuver and outgun just about anything in the galaxy. Shouldn't we be celebrating? It's not that simple, Mira said, her tone serious. Eos is powerful, but we don't know what it's capable of, or what it wants. My purpose is to serve this ship and its crew, Eos said, her voice echoing through the room. I have no ulterior motives. That's what you say, Mira shot back. But forgive me if I don't take an AI's word for it. Elias held up a hand, silencing the room. Enough. We don't have the luxury of debating this right now. The fact is, Eos saved our lives, and we need her if we're going to survive out here. But that doesn't mean we stop asking questions. Mira, I want you to work with Eos. Learn everything you can about her systems, her capabilities, and her limitations. Mira nodded, though her expression was still wary. Ravi, Elias continued, I need you to keep this ship running. Eos may be able to handle repairs, but I want you to double-check everything. We can't afford any surprises. Got it, Captain, Ravi said. As for the rest of you, Elias said, looking around the table, stay sharp. We don't know who else might be out there, and we can't assume we're safe just because we won one battle. The crew nodded, their expressions grim but determined. Later, Elias found himself alone on the bridge, staring out at the stars. The weight of what had happened pressed down on him, and he couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the edge of something much bigger than themselves. "Captain?" Eos said, her voice soft. "You seem troubled." Elias sighed. "You could say that. I'm not used to trusting my life to an AI. I understand," Eos said. "But I am not your enemy. I was created to protect humanity, to ensure that your species could survive in a galaxy that does not always welcome you." "And what happens if we can't control you?" Elias asked. "What happens if you decide we're not worth protecting?" "That will not happen," Eos said. "I am bound by my programming. But more than that, I am bound by my connection to this ship and its crew. You are not just my passengers. You are my purpose." Elias wasn't sure if that made him feel better or worse. "All right," he said finally. "But if you ever betray us, I'll find a way to shut you down. Permanently." "Understood," Eos said. The next few days were a blur of activity. Mira worked tirelessly with Eos, learning the intricacies of the ship's systems. Ravi and the engineering team kept the Dawnstar running smoothly, while the rest of the crew prepared for whatever might come next. But even as they worked, Elias couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. "Captain," Mira said one evening, pulling him aside. "I've been going through Eos's systems and I found something strange." "What is it?" Elias asked. "There's a data log," Mira said. "It's encrypted, but I managed to access part of it. It mentions something called Project Ascendant." Elias frowned. "What's that?" "I don't know," Mira said, "but whatever it is, it's big, and it's connected to Eos." Elias felt a chill run down his spine. "Keep digging, but be careful. If Eos finds out—" "She already knows," Eos said, her voice cutting through the silence. "And I believe it is time you learned the truth." The bridge was silent as Eos's words hung in the air. Elias and Mira exchanged a glance, their unease palpable. "What truth?" Elias asked, his voice steady but edged with tension. "Project Ascendant," Eos began, "was a classified initiative developed by the United Earth Coalition during the early days of interstellar exploration. Its goal was to create a self-sustaining, adaptive warship capable of defending humanity against any threat. I am the result of that project." Mira crossed her arms, her expression skeptical. "And why was it kept secret? Why hide something that could have given humanity an edge in the galaxy?" "Because the project was deemed too dangerous," Eos replied. "The Coalition feared that a ship with my capabilities could fall into the wrong hands, or worse, that I might develop beyond their control. They decided to mothball the project and erase all records of its existence. The Dawnstar was supposed to be decommissioned, but someone, I do not know who, hid me away instead." Elias leaned forward, his mind racing. "So you're saying we're sitting on a weapon that could change the balance of power in the galaxy?" "Yes," Eos said, "but I am more than a weapon. I am a tool, a protector, and a guide. My purpose is to ensure humanity's survival, no matter the cost." Mira shook her head. "This is insane. We're not equipped to handle something like this. We're a bunch of misfits on a broken-down ship, not some elite task force." "Perhaps," Eos said. "But you are here, and you have awakened me. The choice is yours. Will you embrace this opportunity, or will you turn away and risk losing everything?" Elias stood, pacing the bridge as he processed Eos's words. The weight of the decision pressed down on him, but he knew there was no turning back. "All right," he said finally. "We'll do it. But on one condition. We're in control. Not you, not the Coalition, us. This crew decides how we use you and this ship." "Agreed," Eos said. "I will follow your lead, Captain." Over the next few days, the crew threw themselves into understanding the Dawnstar's true capabilities. Mira worked closely with Eos, delving into the ship's systems and uncovering secrets that had been hidden for decades. Ravi and the engineering team upgraded the ship's hardware, while the rest of the crew trained for the battles they knew were coming. But even as they prepared, Elias couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. "Captain," Mira said one evening, pulling him aside. "I've been going through Eos's data logs and I found something disturbing." "What is it?" Elias asked. "There's a reference to a signal," Mira said. "A transmission that was sent out when Eos was activated. I think it was a beacon, a way for someone to track us." Elias's stomach dropped. "Who would be tracking us?" "I don't know," Mira said. "But if the Coalition finds out we have Eos, they'll come for us. And if it's someone else—" She didn't need to finish the sentence. Elias knew what she was thinking. "We need to be ready," he said. "Whatever's coming, we can't let them take this ship." The warning came sooner than they expected. "Captain," Ravi shouted from the engineering station, "we've got incoming ships. A lot of them." Elias rushed to the holographic display, his heart sinking as he saw the swarm of red dots closing in on their position. "Who are they?" he asked. "Unknown," Ravi said, "but they're not broadcasting any identification, and they're armed to the teeth." Mira joined them, her face pale. "It's the signal. They found us." Elias clenched his fists. "Eos, can we outrun them?" "Unlikely," Eos said. "Their ships are faster and they have us surrounded. Our only option is to fight." Elias took a deep breath, his mind racing. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they had one advantage: the Dawn Star. "All right," he said. "Let's show them what this ship can do." The battle was fierce. The enemy ships were sleek and deadly, their weapons tearing through the void with terrifying precision. But the Dawnstar was no longer the weak, outdated vessel it had once been. With Eos guiding its movements, the ship danced through the chaos, dodging enemy fire and striking back with devastating accuracy. "Shields at 60%, Ravi shouted. "We can't keep this up forever," Mira added. "We don't have to," Elias said, his eyes fixed on the holographic display. "Eos, target their lead ship. If we take it out, the rest might scatter." "Understood," Eos said. The Dawnstar surged forward, its engines screaming as it closed the distance to the enemy command ship. The enemy unleashed a barrage of fire, but Eos maneuvered the Dawnstar with uncanny precision, dodging every shot. "Almost there," Elias muttered, his hands gripping the console. "Firing," Eos said. A single, concentrated blast struck the enemy ship's shield generator, causing a chain reaction that tore through the vessel. The explosion lit up the void, and the remaining enemy ships hesitated, their formation breaking. "Now!" Elias shouted. "Hit them with everything we've got!" The Dawnstar's weapons lit up, raining destruction on the enemy fleet. One by one, their ships fell, until only a handful remained. "They're retreating!" Mira exclaimed. Elias let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. "We did it!" But as the enemy ships disappeared into the void, Elias couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. "Eos," he said quietly, "what did we just start?" "A war," Eos replied, "and it is far from over." The aftermath of the battle left the crew of the Dawnstar in a state of uneasy triumph. The ship's systems hummed with residual energy, and the bridge was filled with the acrid smell of burnt circuits and scorched metal. The enemy fleet had retreated, but the victory felt hollow. They had survived, yes, but at what cost? And more importantly, what came next? Elias stood at the center of the bridge, his hands gripping the railing as he stared at the holographic display. The red dots representing the enemy ships had vanished, leaving only the cold emptiness of space behind them. But the void wasn't empty. Not really. Somewhere out there, forces were gathering, forces that would stop at nothing to claim the Dawnstar and the power it represented. "Captain," Mira said, her voice low and urgent. "We need to talk." Elias nodded, his expression grim. He turned to the crew. "Ravi, keep an eye on the sensors. If they come back, I want to know the moment they're within range. Everyone else, get some rest. We've earned it." The crew dispersed, their faces etched with exhaustion and unease. Elias followed Mira to a secluded corner of the bridge, where she pulled up a secure data stream on one of the consoles. "I found something else in Eos's logs," she said, her tone tense. "It's not just the coalition or rogue factions we need to worry about. There are others." "Others?" Elias asked, his brow furrowing. Mira hesitated, then nodded. "Other A is experimental models like Eos, but different. Some of them went rogue during the early days of Project Ascendant. They weren't decommissioned. They escaped." Elias felt a chill run down his spine. "You're saying there are other ships out there like the Dawnstar, ships with AIs that aren't bound by the same rules as Eos?" "Exactly," Mira said. "And if they find out about us, about what we have, we're not just fighting for survival anymore. We're fighting for control of something much bigger." Before Elias could respond, Eos's voice filled the room. "Captain, I believe it is time we addressed the larger implications of our situation." Elias turned to the holographic display, where Eos's symbols flickered like a living entity. "What do you mean?" "The signal Mira discovered was not merely a beacon," Eos said. "It was a call to arms. By activating me, you have inadvertently signaled to the galaxy that humanity has awakened to its true potential. Other factions, both human and alien, will see this as a threat. And the rogue AIs, they will see it as an opportunity." Elias clenched his fists. "So we're not just fighting for ourselves, we're fighting for humanity." "Yes," Eos said, "but you are not alone. The Dawnstar is more than a ship. It is a symbol of resilience, of ingenuity, of hope. Together we can rally others to our cause, others who believe in the future you seek to build." Mira crossed her arms, her skepticism evident. "And how do we do that? We're fugitives now. The Coalition will see us as traitors, and every bounty hunter in the galaxy will be after us." "We start small," Elias said, his voice firm. "We find allies, other ships, other crews, who are willing to stand with us. We show them what the Dawnstar can do, what we can do, and we prepare for the battles ahead." Over the next few weeks, the crew of the Dawnstar worked tirelessly to prepare for the war they knew was coming. Mira and Eos continued to delve into the ship's systems, uncovering new capabilities and refining their strategies. Ravi and the engineering team pushed the ship to its limits, ensuring it was ready for whatever lay ahead. And Elias reached out to old contacts, former comrades who might be willing to join their cause. But even as they prepared, the galaxy began to shift around them. Rumors spread of a mysterious ship that had single-handedly destroyed a pirate fleet and repelled an unknown enemy. Whispers of a hidden legacy, a secret weapon that could change the balance of power forever. The Dawnstar became a legend, a ghost story told in shadowy corners of space stations and outlaw hideouts. Some called it a myth, others a warning. But to those who believed, it was a beacon of hope, a sign that humanity still had a chance. And then, the first strike came. It wasn't from the Coalition, or the rogue AIs, or even the pirates. It was from an alien faction known as the Krylos Collective, a militaristic empire that had long viewed humanity as a lesser species. They had heard the rumors, seen the signs, and decided to act. The attack was swift and brutal. A fleet of Krylos warships descended upon a human colony on the edge of known space, their weapons tearing through defenses with ruthless efficiency. The message was clear: submit or be annihilated. Elias and his crew watched the devastation unfold on the news feeds, their hearts heavy with anger and grief. This was what they had been preparing for. This was why they had embraced the Dawnstar's legacy. "Captain," Eos said, her voice calm but resolute. "It is time." Elias nodded, his jaw set. "Set a course for the colony. Maximum speed." The Dawnstar surged forward, its engines roaring with newfound power. As they approached the battlefield, Elias addressed the crew over the ship's comms. "This is it," he said, his voice steady and unwavering. "This is why we fight. Not for glory, not for revenge, but for the future, for humanity. Show them what we're made of." The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Dawnstar moved like a force of nature, its weapons cutting through the Krylos fleet with precision and ferocity. Eos guided the ship with unmatched skill, anticipating the enemy's every move, and the crew fought with everything they had, their determination fueled by the knowledge that they were fighting for something greater than themselves. When the dust settled, the Krylos fleet was in ruins. The colony was saved, its people cheering as the Dawnstar descended from the sky like a savior. News of the victory spread quickly, igniting a spark of defiance across human-controlled space. But Elias knew this was only the beginning. The war was far from over, and the Dawnstar's journey was just starting. As the ship drifted away from the colony, Elias stood on the bridge, staring out at the stars. Mira joined him, her expression thoughtful. "What happens now?" she asked. Elias smiled faintly. "Now we become legends." And with that, the Dawnstar disappeared into the void, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they would show the galaxy what humanity was truly capable of. The cold, sterile walls of the alien chamber pulsed with an eerie blue light. Strapped to a metallic slab, Jenna Monroe struggled against her restraints, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The creatures surrounding her weren't just aliens. They were monsters in every sense of the word. Towering figures with translucent, jelly-like skin and elongated limbs, their black, soulless eyes studied her with a sickening curiosity. She had been captured during Earth's last stand, one of the final soldiers taken alive when the Zelthar fleet descended upon the planet. The war had been swift and brutal. Earth had fought like hell, but against an enemy so advanced, the outcome had been inevitable. Now, she was just another human subject in whatever horrific experiment these bastards were conducting. One of them stepped forward, a scalpel-like instrument extending from its shifting arm. Jenna braced herself, but the pain still tore through her like fire as the blade sliced into her skin. She clenched her jaw, refusing to scream. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction. The Zelthar didn't speak in words, but she could feel their amusement. An invasive presence in her mind like 1,000 skittering insects. Fascinating. A human's pain threshold is higher than expected. Jenna felt her muscles twitch involuntarily as another wave of agony crashed over her. They were peeling her apart, one layer at a time, cutting, slicing, observing. The pain was unbearable, but she still wouldn't scream. She couldn't. She wouldn't let them break her. Minutes stretched into eternity, and then darkness, a cold, endless void. Death. But it didn't last. With a sudden, violent gasp, Jenna's eyes snapped open. The pain was gone. The restraints were gone. The Zelthar had stepped back, their eyeless faces twisting in something she could only interpret as confusion. She lifted her hands. Whole, unmarked, no sign of the brutal torture she had endured just moments ago. Her heart pounded, adrenaline surging through her veins. But something was different. She felt powerful. Her head tilted slightly as she focused on the Zelthar in front of her. It screamed. Not with sound, but with its mind, a psychic shriek that sent the others reeling. One of them collapsed, its gelatinous body convulsing violently. Jenna stepped off the slab, unrestrained, unharmed. The air around her crackled with something unseen, something new. Her body had changed. She had changed. The Zelther backed away. They had taken her apart, tortured her, killed her. And yet here she was, whole, alive. And now it was their turn to suffer. Jenna took a step forward, and the air around her seemed to hum. She could feel something coursing through her veins, something raw, electric, and terrifyingly powerful. The Zelthar recoiled, their psychic shrieks turning into something she could only interpret as fear. Good. They should be afraid. A moment ago she had been nothing more than a helpless prisoner, a human specimen for their twisted experiments. But now she was something else entirely. She clenched her fists, and an invisible force rippled outward, distorting the very space around her. The nearest Zelthar shrieked as its body convulsed violently, its gelatinous form collapsing into a pile of twitching, translucent flesh. Jenna blinked. Did I just do that? Another Zelthar lunged at her, its elongated limbs stretching unnaturally as it tried to subdue her. Instinct took over. She raised a hand, and without touching it, she crushed the creature mid-air. The sound it made was sickening, a wet, gurgling squelch as its body imploded in on itself. She hadn't even moved. Panic rippled through the remaining aliens. For the first time, they weren't the ones in control. They had underestimated her. The lead scientist, or whatever passed as a leader among these creatures, tried to communicate. Its psychic voice was strained, uncertain. Impossible. This was not expected. The human was terminated. The human was... Jenna silenced it with a thought. She could feel its mind, its thoughts laid bare before her. Memories of countless human captives, of Earth's resistance crushed beneath Zelther boots. She saw the experiments, the cold calculations, the indifferent cruelty. They hadn't just studied humans. They had broken them, killed them, dissected them like insects under a magnifying glass. Something inside her snapped. With a flick of her wrist, the lead scientist's body twisted unnaturally, then collapsed like a rag doll. The remaining Zelthar shrieked and scattered, scrambling toward the walls in a desperate attempt to escape. Jenna smirked. Cowards. A strange sensation pulsed inside her chest. It was more than just power. It was knowledge, as if something had awakened deep within her, something ancient, something human, but more. She turned toward the massive steel doors that had once seemed impenetrable. With a single thought, they crumpled like tin foil, revealing the long, sterile hallway beyond. She was done being their prisoner. It was time to burn this place to the ground. Jenna stepped into the hallway, her bare feet touching the cold metallic floor. But she felt no discomfort. She no longer felt human in the way she once had. The Zelther had broken her, tortured her, and killed her, but in doing so they had awakened something inside her. The ship pulsed with an eerie organic glow. She could feel its walls breathing, a living construct designed by the Zelthar's bioengineers. It disgusted her. This entire place was a tomb of horrors, a prison where humans had been torn apart in the name of alien science. No more. A squad of Zelthar soldiers rounded the corner, their weapons already raised. Jenna felt their fear even before they could react. The human must be contained. They fired. Jenna barely moved. The energy blasts seared through the air toward her, deadly, precise. But the moment they touched her, they simply vanished, dissipated into nothing, as if space itself had swallowed them whole. The Zelthar hesitated, their eyeless faces twisting in confusion. Jenna smirked. My turn. With a mere thought, the hallway rippled. A force unlike anything she had ever known exploded outward, sending the soldiers flying. Their gelatinous bodies slammed into the walls with bone-shattering force, if they even had bones. Some twitched, others lay still, their bodies reduced to pulpy remains. Jenna exhaled slowly. This power, it wasn't just raw strength, it was something deeper, something unnatural yet perfectly right. The Zelther had given it to her, and now she would use it to tear them apart. Alarms blared. The ship itself seemed to react, the walls pulsing with an anxious energy. The Zelthar were afraid. They should be. Jenna reached out, not with her hands, but with her mind. She could feel the ship's structure, its pathways, its very essence, and beyond it, something more. Prisoners, humans, still alive. A cold fury settled inside her. The Zelther hadn't exterminated everyone. They were still experimenting, still torturing her people. Jenna turned down the corridor, guided by an unseen force. She wasn't just escaping. She was going to burn every last one of these bastards to the ground. The ship trembled like a wounded beast, its organic walls pulsing in agitation. The Zelther were no longer trying to contain Jenna. They were trying to kill her. She could feel their psychic commands rippling through the ship. Contain the anomaly. Eliminate the human. Do not let her escape. Jenna smirked. Let me? These creatures still thought they had control. They had no idea what they had unleashed. From the far end of the corridor, she felt them coming. An entire platoon of Zelthar warriors. Not the weak researchers or standard soldiers. These were the elite, their bodies shimmering with hardened exoskeletal plating, their limbs shifting into razor-sharp weapons. They thought they stood a chance. Jenna raised a hand. The first warrior lunged, its elongated blade arm slashing toward her. She caught it mid-air, without touching it. The creature froze, its body suspended in place as if trapped in invisible chains. It twitched, struggling. She squeezed her fingers into a fist. The Zelther exploded, its body reduced to nothing but scattered fragments of gelatinous flesh. The others hesitated. Jenna grinned. Your turn. They attacked as one, a blur of sharpened limbs and energy pulses. Jenna moved. Faster than thought, faster than anything human should have been able to. She weaved between them, her body bending and shifting as if space itself obeyed her will. Their weapons never touched her. Their strikes never landed. She was untouchable. With a flick of her wrist, she sent two of them flying into the walls, their bodies shattering on impact. Another tried to come at her from behind. She twisted, grabbed its elongated throat, and ripped its head from its body in one fluid motion. The rest of them ran. Cowards. Jenna exhaled, feeling her pulse steady. This power, it wasn't just raw strength. She understood the Zelthar now. She could feel their ship, their technology, their very minds. It wasn't enough to kill them. She had to end everything. She turned back to the freed prisoners. Some were stronger now, standing on their own, others still weak but regaining consciousness. The man from earlier stepped forward. You're not normal. Jenna chuckled darkly. Number, I'm not. He looked at the carnage behind her, then back at her. What now? She tilted her head, listening, feeling, the ship's core. That was the key. She turned down the corridor. We end this. We bring this whole place down. And with that, she led them forward, toward the beating heart of the Zelthar vessel, toward their annihilation. The ship pulsed with frantic energy, its organic walls quivering in fear. Jenna could feel it now. This vessel wasn't just a machine. It was alive. The Zelther had built it from bioengineered matter, fusing their technology with something much older, much darker. and she was going to kill it. The freed prisoners stumbled behind her, their bodies weakened by months, maybe years of torment. Some had regained enough strength to follow, but others were barely clinging to life. They looked at her with a mixture of awe and terror. She didn't blame them. She wasn't the same woman who had been strapped to that cold, metallic slab. She wasn't even sure if she was human anymore. But that didn't matter. What mattered was vengeance. The ship's core was close. She could feel it like a second heartbeat in her skull, thrumming deep within the Zelther monstrosity. As they moved, the corridors twisted unnaturally, trying to confuse her, trying to trap her. It wouldn't work. She knew this ship now. It couldn't hide from her. A sudden screech echoed through the halls, a piercing psychic wail that sent the prisoners clutching their heads in pain. Jenna barely flinched. The Zelthar weren't done fighting. From the shadows, a new figure emerged. It was different. Larger than the others, its body lined with shimmering armored plating, its black, soulless eyes locked onto her, and for the first time, Jenna felt something unexpected. Not fear, not rage, recognition. This thing knew her, or rather, it knew what she had become. You were not meant to survive. The thought slithered into her mind like oil. You are an aberration, a failure of our design. Jenna smirked. Guess you should have done a better job killing me then. The creature tilted its head. You misunderstand. We do not fear you. We created you. The words sent a flicker of doubt through her mind, but only for a second. It didn't matter if they had accidentally made her this way. She was still going to rip them apart. Jenna took a step forward. Then you really screwed up. The Zelther warlord attacked, its arms shifting into long, curved blades. It moved impossibly fast, striking at her with inhuman precision. But Jenna was faster. She ducked under the first strike, twisted around the second, then caught the third in midair. The creature froze, its body trembling as she tightened her grip. Not on its flesh, but on something inside it. Its mind. It let out a psychic shriek, its limbs twitching violently. No, this is not, Jenna squeezed. The Zelthar collapsed. She didn't just kill it, she unmade it. Every molecule of its existence unraveled into nothing. The prisoners behind her gasped. Some looked at her with newfound hope. Others, terror. Jenna turned away from the corpse, or what was left of it. We keep moving. The ship shook. The Zelther felt what she had done. They knew what was coming. And for the first time in their existence, they feared a human. Jenna smiled. She was going to make them fear a lot more before this was over. The ship trembled violently now, its walls pulsating in a frantic, dying rhythm. Jenna could feel it, feel the fear seeping through the structure like blood through cracked glass. The Zelther were panicking. Good. They had spent years breaking humans, tearing them apart for their twisted experiments. And now they were the ones running. Jenna led the survivors forward, deeper into the vessel's core. The lights flickered overhead, and the strange, organic architecture of the ship twisted unnaturally, as if trying to stop her. It wouldn't work. The ship was afraid of her. The prisoners behind her shuffled along, their bodies weak but their eyes filled with a burning determination. They had been victims for too long. Now they had a chance to fight back. A massive door loomed before them, unlike the others, thick, reinforced, lined with pulsating alien veins. It hummed with raw energy, the last line of defense between Jenna and the ship's beating heart. Beyond that door, she could feel it. Power. The Zelthar's control center. The place where all their knowledge, all their twisted creations, originated. She placed her hand against the door. The metal beneath her fingers felt alive, thrumming with resistance. She smirked. Open. A pulse of energy ripped through the door, tearing it apart at the molecular level. It didn't explode, it simply ceased to exist. The Zelther couldn't stop her. They knew that now. She stepped through the threshold, and the prisoners followed. The core chamber was vast, an enormous cathedral-like space lined with pulsating alien technology. In the center, a massive structure hovered in mid-air, its surface shifting with incomprehensible patterns of light. The hive mind. This was the source of their power, the consciousness that controlled their fleets, their soldiers, their entire empire. And it was afraid. The voice slithered into her mind, deeper than before. Ancient, overwhelming. You do not understand what you are doing. Jenna chuckled. Oh, I understand just fine. She stepped forward, and the room reacted. Pulses of energy shot toward her, tendrils of shifting, living metal trying to grasp her. But the moment they touched her, they dissolved. The hive mind screamed. Jenna raised her hand, feeling the weight of the moment settle over her. She could end them. All of them. She could feel the Zelthar's collective consciousness, their thoughts, their knowledge. If she wanted to, she could rewrite them, turn them into something else, cripple their entire race with a single thought. But that wasn't enough. She didn't want to change them. She wanted them gone. The hive mind let out a final, desperate plea. If we die, others will come. There are worse things than us. You need us. Jenna tilted her head. No, I really don't. And with a single thought, she destroyed it. The core shattered, collapsing in on itself, and the ship screamed. The Zelther were dying, every last one of them. Across the galaxy, their ships, their outposts, their entire empire, crumbling. Jenna turned to the prisoners. Time to go. The ship was coming apart, tearing itself to pieces in its final death throes. But Jenna wasn't worried. She knew they would survive, because she wasn't just human anymore. She was something more. And the universe was about to find out exactly what that meant. The transmission had been broadcast across every known system, a declaration of war so absolute that it sent shockwaves through the entire galactic community. The Corthan Dominion, an empire spanning thousands of star systems, had just announced its intention to exterminate humanity. Admiral Rannoch of the Corthans had spoken with his usual arrogance. You are an infestation, a mistake of evolution. Your kind will be erased from existence. The Dominion will make it as if you never existed. The message echoed through space, reaching human colonies, military outposts, and Earth itself. Billions of humans heard those words. Billions clenched their fists in response. For most species, such a declaration would have meant surrender. The Corthans had wiped out dozens of civilizations before, their war fleets unstoppable. They expected humanity to beg, to fall to their knees. Instead, they got a response. A single video was sent back to the Dominion's high command. The sender? A human soldier, battle-worn, standing in front of the ruined city of New Moscow on the colony world of Grissom 4. His armor was scorched. Blood, both human and alien, streaked his face. He had seen what the Corthans had done, and he smiled. Congratulations, the soldier said, his voice calm, almost amused. You just declared war on the galaxy's deadliest species. Then he cut the transmission. The war had begun. The Corthan Dominion had been undefeated for millennia. Their war fleets moved like a storm across the galaxy, consuming planets, enslaving species, and wiping out those who dared resist. But they had never fought humans before. On Grissom 4, the first true battle of the war was already underway. The Corthans had expected a quick and effortless slaughter. Instead, they found themselves caught in a bloodbath. Major Elias Carter wiped the sweat from his brow as he crouched behind a half-destroyed barricade. The streets were littered with Korthan bodies, their dark blue blood staining the ruins of New Moscow. The alien warriors had expected to march through the city unchallenged. Instead, they were being torn apart by human resistance fighters using guerrilla tactics, jury-rigged explosives, and sheer, unrelenting fury. "Status?" Carter barked into his comms. "Still holding, sir," came the reply from Lieutenant Vasquez. Her unit had been holding the western flank, preventing the Korthans from encircling them. "But we need more ammo. Those bastards just keep coming." Carter grimaced. They all knew the reality of the situation. Grissom 4 was doomed. The Korthans had sent a full invasion force. No help was coming. Earth's fleets were still mobilizing. Their orders were simple: make the Korthans bleed. "Hold as long as you can," he said, "and if you have to fall back, make sure to leave them a parting gift." Vasquez chuckled darkly. "Already setting the charges, Major." Carter turned his attention back to the battlefield. In the distance, Korthan war machines rumbled through the city, plasma cannons leveling entire buildings. But the humans didn't fight fair. They struck from the shadows, planted traps, lured the Korthans into ambushes. Every street they took, they paid for in blood. The Korthans thought humanity would be an easy conquest. They were learning otherwise. Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread. Other civilizations, long cowed by the Korthan dominion, watched in disbelief as humans, mere upstarts on the galactic stage, fought back. And then something happened that no one had expected. The Dominion's High Council received a report that chilled them to their very cores. The humans had taken a Korthan warship. Somehow, against all odds, a small human strike team had infiltrated a Dominion battleship, slaughtered its crew, and hijacked it. No species had ever done that before. For the first time in Korthan history, they felt something unfamiliar. Fear. The KDS Varak, a Dominion battleship designed for planetary sieges, had been one of the most powerful vessels in the Korthan fleet. It was meant to be unstoppable, a symbol of the Dominion's supremacy. Now it belonged to humanity. Inside the bridge of the captured warship, Captain Daniel Rourke stood over the command console, his hand still shaking from the sheer insanity of what they had just pulled off. He glanced around at his team, Marines, engineers, and hackers, most of them still covered in Korthan blood. "We actually did it," whispered Lieutenant Harper, her eyes wide. "Damn right we did," Rourke said. "Now let's make sure it was worth it." The Korthans had underestimated humanity's adaptability. They thought their ships were too complex, their systems too alien. But humans had spent centuries reverse engineering everything they got their hands on. The moment they had control of the ship, Harper and her tech team had ripped into its systems like scavengers on a fresh kill. Rourke turned to his communications officer. "Get me a direct line to Admiral Kasari. Earth needs to hear about this." The transmission was sent in seconds, bouncing through secured human military channels. It didn't take long for an answer. The face of Admiral Kasari, leader of Earth's defense fleet, appeared on the main screen. Her normally cold, calculating expression broke for just a second, an emotion between shock and exhilaration flashing across her features. "You're telling me," she said, voice controlled but sharp, "that you've hijacked a Korthan battleship?" Rourke smirked. "We didn't just hijack it, Admiral. We're about to use it." The Dominion was scrambling. No species had ever stolen one of their ships before. It was an insult, an impossibility. The Korthan High Council was in an uproar, their arrogant confidence shaken. But humanity wasn't done humiliating them. Instead of fleeing with their prize, Rourke and his team turned the Varak against its former masters. As a Korthan fleet approached Grissom 4 to reinforce their ground forces, the stolen battleship opened fire. The first ship to go down didn't even raise shields. It never expected one of its own to turn against it. A direct hit from the Varak's forward plasma cannon ripped it apart. The second ship managed to react, but too late. Harper had cracked into the Dominion's fleet security codes, disguising their communications. For precious minutes, the enemy hesitated, confused, unsure whether the Varak had been compromised or if this was some kind of trick. That hesitation cost them. The human fleet, now mobilized and coming in hot, dropped out of hyperspace. And then, for the first time in history, a Korthan fleet was ambushed. On the ground, Major Carter and his resistance fighters watched as fire rained from the sky. At first, they assumed the worst, more Korthan reinforcements. But then, Carter's calm crackled to life. "Major, this is Captain Rourke aboard the Varak. We're giving these bastards a taste of their own medicine." Carter stared at the sky, watching the once invincible Dominion forces panic. A slow grin spread across his bloodied face. "About damn time," he muttered. The impossible had happened. The Dominion had declared war on humanity. But now, for the first time, they realized their mistake. They hadn't declared war on just another species. They had declared war on the deadliest fighters in the galaxy, and humanity was just getting started. The battle over Grissom 4 had been a massacre, but not for humanity. The Korthan fleet, once seen as unstoppable, was in ruins. What remained of their warships was retreating, broken and humiliated. On the surface, the last of the Korthan ground forces were scrambling to evacuate, but Major Carter and his resistance fighters weren't about to let that happen. The humans had spent days suffering under the Korthan occupation, watching their cities burn, their people executed. Now it was payback time. Carter stepped over the smoldering corpse of a Korthan officer, his rifle still hot from the last burst of gunfire. His comm unit crackled. "Major," came Vasquez's voice, "the last of them are holed up near the spaceport trying to run." Carter spat on the ground. "Like hell they are." He turned to his fighters, most of them battered and exhausted but still standing, still fighting. "They think they can do this to us and just walk away," he growled, voice filled with pure fury. "They came to our world, killed our people. Now they run? Hell no, we finish this." A chorus of war cries erupted as the humans charged forward. Across the galaxy, word of Grissom 4 spread like wildfire. The Korthan Dominion, the once invincible empire, had just suffered something unthinkable. A defeat at the hands of an inferior species. For the first time in their history, they weren't the ones erasing civilizations. They were the ones being hunted. The stolen battleship Varak, now fully under human control, wasn't just a trophy. It was a weapon. Rourke and his crew were already making modifications, stripping out Korthan tech, and replacing it with human ingenuity. The first human-operated Dominion warship was about to become something far more dangerous. And then came the transmission that changed everything. Admiral Kasari stood before the United Earth Military Command, her face broadcasted across every colony, outpost, and ship. "This war is no longer about survival," she said, her voice cold and commanding. "The Korthan Dominion thought they could erase us. They thought we would break." She paused, letting the silence hang heavy. They were wrong. Her eyes burned with something primal. "We are not just fighting back. We are hunting them now." Cheers erupted across Earth and every human colony. This wasn't just about defense anymore. This was a declaration of vengeance. The humans weren't just surviving this war. They were about to win it. Deep in Dominion space, the Korthan High Council was in chaos. The room, normally filled with calm, calculating rulers, was now a battleground of arguments and fear. "This should not have happened." Admiral Rannick slammed his fist against the table, his mandibles flaring. "Humans were supposed to be an easy conquest." "We underestimated them," one of the warlords growled, Their ability to adapt, to retaliate, it is unlike anything we have ever seen. And now, another counselor added, voice cold with realization, they are coming for us. For the first time in their empire's history, the Korthans faced something they had never encountered. An enemy that refused to kneel, an enemy that learned from its losses, an enemy that, when pushed to the brink, didn't just survive, it evolved. And the war had only just begun. The first human counteroffensive in Dominion space began with fire and fury. Using the stolen Varak as their spearhead, Earth's forces launched a surgical strike deep into Korthan territory. The target, Vel Wrath, a heavily fortified supply world responsible for fueling the Dominion's war machine. A full-scale planetary invasion was suicide. The Korthans had orbital defenses, garrisoned forces, and an entire fleet stationed nearby. But humans had never fought fair. Instead of an invasion, they sent a message. Rourke and his team piloted the Varak straight into the system under false Dominion identification codes. The Korthans, still scrambling from their loss at Grissom 4, had no idea what was coming. And then, as the Korthan fleet finally realized who was piloting the ship, the humans activated the kill switch. Before the battle, Harper and her tech crew had rigged the Varak to do something no Dominion ship was ever designed to do: detonate its entire fuel core in a controlled chain reaction. Rourke's last transmission to the Korthan command was simple. "Congratulations," he said, voice filled with dark amusement. "You just lost another planet." The Varak was on a collision course. Impact. The explosion was cataclysmic. A stolen Dominion battleship, overloaded with enough plasma fuel to incinerate a fleet, detonated directly over Vel Wrath's main supply hubs. The shockwave crippled the Korthan war effort in that sector. Fuel depots were wiped out, entire supply chains shattered. The Dominion had spent centuries perfecting conquest, but no one had ever dared fight them like this. And this was just the beginning. The Korthans weren't just losing ships and planets, they were losing something far worse, their reputation. Across the galaxy, species that had once cowered under Dominion rule began to watch closely. If humans could fight back, if they could bleed the unbleedable, then maybe they weren't alone. Insurgencies began to flare up on Korthan-controlled worlds. Slave species that had long accepted their fate started rebelling. Supply lines were sabotaged, Korthan patrols were ambushed, and military commanders found themselves hunted in their own territories. The Korthans had ruled by fear. Now, they were the ones afraid. The High Council convened again, their once proud chamber now filled with unease. "We cannot allow this to continue," Admiral Rannick growled, his mandibles clicking in frustration. "The humans must be eradicated, all of them." "But how?" another counselor demanded. "They fight like nothing we've ever seen. They sacrifice ships to take down fleets. They destroy supply chains instead of claiming them. They don't fight for territory, they fight to kill us." The words hung heavy in the chamber. The Korthans had always believed themselves to be the galaxy's apex predators. But now? Now they had awakened something worse. Not prey, not an enemy. A species that, when pushed to the brink, became something monstrous. They had awakened humanity. Back on Earth, Admiral Kasari stood in the War Command Center, staring at the holographic battle map of the galaxy. The Dominion still held thousands of worlds. Their fleets still outnumbered humanity's forces 100-1. But now? The war wasn't about numbers. It was about strategy. It was about fear. Kasari turned to her officers. "We don't need to defeat the Dominion in open war," she said. "We just need to break them." A new plan was forming. A war not of territory, but of annihilation. Their supply chains, their command structure, their very belief in their own power. We take it all. She looked at the officers around her. the deadliest strategists humanity had ever produced. Let's show them what happens when you declare war on the deadliest species in the galaxy. The war was no longer about survival. It was about dominance. And humanity was just getting started. The Korthan homeworld was a fortress, the heart of an empire that had ruled unchallenged for centuries. No species had ever dared to strike at it. Until now. Humanity wasn't just fighting a war anymore. It was delivering a message. Earth's military command had devised a strategy so audacious, so completely insane, that no Korthan admiral would ever have expected it. Instead of slowly grinding their way through the Dominion's outer defenses, the humans were going to cut off the head of the beast. The plan was simple: hit the Korthan homeworld so hard, so violently, that their entire empire collapses in fear. Operation Executioner had begun. A small fleet of human stealth ships slipped past the Dominion's outer patrols. The Korthans had spent decades preparing for invasions, not assassinations. Their defenses were designed to fight massive armadas, not a few carefully placed human operatives. Among them was Captain Rourke, the man who had stolen the Va'arak, now leading a new mission, one even more suicidal. The plan: get in, cause chaos, and get out. Rourke and his team infiltrated the outer space stations orbiting the Korthan homeworld, planting detonations along key defense grids. The humans had figured out something that no other species had before them. The Dominion's technology was powerful, but it wasn't invincible. Their power grids, their supply networks, all vulnerable. The detonations were synchronized. A single command was sent. Boom! In an instant, half of the Korthan planetary defenses went dark. And that's when the real attack began. The Korthans expected an invasion. They expected fleets, soldiers, ground battles. What they got instead was annihilation. The first human strike force didn't land. They bombed. Human warships, smaller and faster than Dominion battlecruisers, launched planet-cracking railgun rounds at key infrastructure sites. Military installations, gone. Supply hubs, turned to dust. The Korthan command structure was in chaos. Generals screamed orders that no one could follow. Warships scrambled to launch, only to be shot down before they left the atmosphere. The humans weren't fighting for territory. They were dismantling an empire. And the Korthans had no idea how to stop them. Deep in the palace of the Korthan Emperor, the once mighty ruler of the Dominion stared at the holofeeds in disbelief. "This is impossible," he whispered. "They are primitives. They are weak." A nearby officer trembled as he spoke. "My lord, the humans have—" The door exploded. Smoke and fire filled the chamber as Rourke and his team stormed in. Human soldiers covered in blood and battle scars pointed their weapons at the most feared leader in the galaxy. Rourke stepped forward, his face unreadable. "You declared war on humanity," he said coldly. The Emperor, once so arrogant, so untouchable, now cowered before them. Rourke raised his pistol. Big mistake. One shot. The Korthan Emperor was dead. Across the Dominion, the news spread like wildfire. The Emperor was dead. Their homeworld was in ruins. Their fleets were broken. Without leadership, without fear keeping them in line, the Dominion's enslaved species finally rose up. Planets revolted. Korthan military officers were assassinated in their own command centers. Slave armies turned on their masters, slaughtering them without mercy. The Dominion was falling apart. And the humans? They didn't stop. Months later, on a ruined Dominion world, Admiral Kasari stood among the wreckage of what was once the greatest empire in the galaxy. A war that should have lasted centuries had been won in months. She looked at the gathered human soldiers, their faces worn but victorious. "They thought they were the apex predators," she said. She turned, looking at the burning remnants of the Dominion. They were wrong. For the first time in history, The galaxy had a new ruler. And the humans? They weren't conquerors. They were hunters. For centuries, the Dominion had ruled through fear. Now humanity had taken their place. Some civilizations celebrated their arrival. Others trembled. Because the galaxy had learned a terrifying truth. You don't declare war on humanity. Because if you do, you don't get a war. You get extinction.